Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. We are so blessed to have so many amazing experts in our community. One of them is in front of you, Miss Marianne Hughes. It is definitely a delight to have you on, Marianne. And I know that you've been on our events before. So, guys, if you haven't been to one of our events before, make sure you come and check out because we have amazing speakers like this. Marianne, let's kind of dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got involved doing it? We'll go from there.
Sure, yes. So I'm Marianne Hughes. I'm based in Houston, Texas, but I work with families everywhere. And so my passion and my focus the last several years has been to help families going through divorce who have a child with some sort of special needs or disability. And I got into that because I myself was in that position several years back where I was faced with divorce unexpectedly after 21 years of marriage. And so I took that as an opportunity to focus on my kids and how to help them and focus on what they would need in the future. My kids are on the autism spectrum. I have two boys, now young adults, but I had to make sure that they were going to be okay through the process and figure out how I was going to take care of them as a single mom going forward so that they would have whatever they needed to be successful in the future.
Okay. And what you mentioned about the special needs is important because oftentimes when you're separating, you need to have like more communication rather than less communication. And with special needs, the demand is even higher. So that could be quite a challenge. Now, what are some of the typical challenges that show up at your doorstep that people come to you complaining about?
Yeah, so first of all, they're just overwhelmed. Where do we start? What do we do? How do we approach this divorce? Because the divorce is hard enough anyway, but when you're trying to plan for the future of a child with special needs and how to protect them, how to ensure their financial stability in the future, there's a lot to consider there. And there's ways to do it that will be better in terms of protecting the child and their benefits in the long term. And so a lot of people don't know, the first thing about divorce necessarily, but then more importantly is the special needs aspects that they need to be aware of. And a lot of family law attorneys, if they don't have experience there, really don't, can't necessarily give them all the information they might need and be able to support them in the way that they need. So things that I do, for instance, is support them through the process, prepare them for the process in terms of how to best communicate, mention about communication, how to communicate their needs to their legal team. That could be a family law attorney, it could be a special needs financial planner, estate planning attorney, mental health professional. It's kind of a large team that you can put together to support you and your kids in the process. So
So
there's
there's the communication aspect and also identifying and being able to address those needs. You see both of those basically. Very cool. How long does the process usually take in kind of saying, all right, well, this is what we're going to do, but then this is all the other stuff that in our case we need to address as well.
right, and that depends on the complexity and level of amicable type discussions, communication within the parties, right? So normally as a divorce coach, I'll represent one person to help them advocate for themselves and for their child's needs. But also recently I've become a mediator and a parent coordinator. So I'm excited to also take on the role to be able to help both parents and help guide them to make decisions together to put the child's needs first rather than fight over what's mine, what's yours as part of the divorce. We want to take this opportunity to really work together in terms of what does a child need and how can we together, mom and dad, support our child through this transition and in the future.
So, what would be the first step or a tip that our audience members who are watching this and this is relevant to them, they would need to consider or do first or kind of prioritize?
Right. So, as you mentioned, we want to prioritize what's important to us. Is it uh, ensuring our child's future? Is it is it how we approach a divorce in terms of what the future might look like, the relationship that we're going to have with the other party? And so the important thing to what I tell my clients is we want to put, as we mentioned, to put the child first, but how's that going to impact you going forward? Is how that going to impact the relationship between all the parties. We want hopefully the child to be supported by both parents and bringing each one up to speed. If they haven't already been involved into the child's care, how can we get the other person on board so that we're comfortable having the child spend time with each parent, whatever that time may look like, that we're comfortable that if they haven't had the opportunity before for whatever reason, that they become comfortable and that we're comfortable with everyone's ability to then address a child's needs.
Got it. All right. And how can people connect with you and find out more about the different ways that you can support them?
Yeah, so all of my social media and my website is called Special Family Transitions. So if you go to that on the website, on Facebook, you can find me. That's the easiest way. But I do plenty of events, yours included, where I share information. And so that information is readily available. And I definitely am available for one-on-one coaching, consulting, and also, where, as I mentioned, working with both parents. I have a situation right now where I'm working with both. So that way, we're keeping the conflict level down, as opposed to if they each went to a lawyer, then it's going to take a different tone and approach. So I'm trying to get them to at least think together, work together as to what the basics, what they want it to look like, and then reach out to your attorneys to finalize the details or work through specifics. So a lot of people think they have to run to an attorney first, and definitely I'm all for working with a special needs focused and experienced family law attorney, but keep in mind, that's not the first person you may have to run out to. While as I mentioned, it's a kind of a team effort. And as a coach or consultant, I can help you think of all the different ways that maybe certain paths may lead you. And so we want you to be in the best position now and also in the future, post divorce. What's that going to look like, and how can we get the best result for you and for the child and for the whole, what used to be the family unit, but for the co-parenting relationship, how is that going to look? Because that's going to affect the child as well.
And I had one more question, because when it comes to special needs, when I was in private practice, I oftentimes see that it's not the parents themselves many times because they're busy working, but it happens to be the extended family, the grandparents or the uncles. So, where do they come in this process? I know that the couple have to kind of figure this thing out, but uh, nevertheless, the care for the children has to happen simultaneously. So, any words of advice on that part?
Yeah, so definitely my advice would be, if you're an extended family member, um, and you've been close to the family, to both to the child and to both of the parties, whether it's your child or your in-law, definitely try to maintain that, because they're going to need you there for perhaps respite, is a term that we use in terms of taking care of the kids. Like you said, we're so focused either on the divorce or all the other demands that we may have. Sometimes parents need a break. And so definitely we want the support of those, friends, family, extended people in our community. It takes a village to raise special needs children and support the family as well, so that we all end up with a good result and good situation. Because the worst that can happen is people cut off ties, and then the child's like, what happened to, aunt or grandma or whatever from the other side? We never see or hear from them. And maybe sometimes they're uncomfortable, but there's definitely ways to bridge that and know that, um, to show that you still care and that you can still be a part of that child's life. And granted, the relationship with that ex may look a little bit different, but still let them know that you're there and there to support the child.
And then on the kid side, how do you communicate this, or any suggestions do you have, especially with because some of the kids have more emotional attachments and some of the kids are not attached. But then they're affected in different ways basically when it comes to their day-to-day activities and stuff. So what's your suggestion in communicating and coordinating all of this with the kids themselves?
Right, especially when you're first starting out sharing about the separation or divorce that is coming down. The worst thing to do is to have it be sudden and drastic, especially with kids with autism. They don't do well with change and unexpected changes in their routine. And so we want to prepare them slowly. If you know divorce is coming, perhaps kind of do things slowly, ease them into that. And I had a really hard time when I was going through it, trying to find people to help, because as you mentioned, I was trying to find professionals to work with my kids, to ease that transition and any anxiety that may result from that. And honestly, it was really hard. And so I went to a different resources, but finally I went to a special needs minister at a church that had a program to help kids with disabilities. And I said, do you have anything for my family? He said, Marianne, it's up to you. What would you do if your kids are facing a change or something new? And I thought about that. One thing I put together in the past for my family was something called a social story. It's something a lot of families dealing with special needs or autism may be familiar with, maybe from school or from therapists, which is an easy way to explain to a child kind of what's happening in their world and what's happening next and what they can expect. So I created one for my family. I have actually a YouTube video about how I did that for my family and how it helps support them. Even the school read it to them. They would read it over and over, kind of like a storybook, and it can be tailored to your child's level of disability, of intellectual capacity, and emotional, issues as well as to how to present that information. The more information you can have to let them know that things are going to be okay. We still love you as both parents, but things are going to look different, and this is what it's going to look like. Perhaps have pictures of the new place that they haven't been to before. That's a scary thing for the child and for the other parent, right? To have that separation. And so we want to try to do this in as positive and loving way as possible, so that they know that even though it's different, it's still okay, and that they're both loved.
Beautiful. This is a complex matter, and as Marianne said, the name of the game is getting informed, planning, and communicating, and getting support. So in order to do that, actually, she has a very extensive list of resources that she has generously given us. Please go to the description box below this video, click on them, and make sure that you educate yourself, you familiarize yourself, and also, more importantly, you connect with people who actually have your best at heart and want to support you and have the resources for it. So do connect to Marianne. Also, do connect with us if you haven't already done so. Click like and subscribe so you get notified of all the experts that come on our channel. This actually last part is very important because we need to role model the behavior to our kids that it is okay to ask for help, that it's okay not to have all the answers, and that the world is not a big and scary place. And there are genuine people that are interested in making the world a better place. So please make sure that you do that for your kids, for yourself. We all need to connect, we all need to communicate, and we all need the support. So Marianne is a great person to do that with. Marianne, before we finish, any final words of wisdom for our audience members?
Sure. So one thing that we didn't talk about was taking care of ourselves in the process, making sure that we're engaging in self-care. And that can look like a lot of different things. We talked about maybe having people to come in and help, but it could be just doing whatever we have to do to be in a good mindset, to make good decisions and be in a good emotional place in divorce. This definitely, a divorce can take over our lives if we let it, but just know that it's a finite process. It will end, and the point is to do in such a way that when it is over, it may seem like it may never end, but it will end one day. Focus on what's life going to be after divorce, and how can we help our kids and help ourselves have the best future going forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. With that said, please keep connected. And until next time, guys, cheers.